Much has been written about the potential economic benefits of the new African Continental Free Trade Area known as the AfCFTA. However, few people have asked, how will the AfCFTA help African states develop a resilient agricultural sector? According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States, in 2020, more than 282 million Africans were undernourished. Many events, such as COVID-19, border closures and conflicts, the Russia-Ukraine war, climate events, and political crises have amplified food insecurity in Africa. The situation has gotten bad enough where the FAO and the World Food Program have suggested that there were at least 14 food crises in African countries during 2021 alone. Furthermore, when food becomes scarce, prices rise, which disproportionately hurts the poorest people on the continent. Conflict seems to be a major driver of food crises in Africa. According to a report by the Africa Center for Strategic Studies, 9 of the 10 countries with the most significant increases in food insecurity in 2020 were facing active conflicts. Countries like South Sudan, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Cameroon have been plagued by violence, and their citizens are paying the price. In addition, natural disasters constantly threaten Africa's food supply. In 2020, Sudan experienced its worst flooding in years, and Kenya, Somalia, Eritrea, and Djibouti have all been hurt by devastating locust outbreaks that destroy crop yields. For Africa to address its food system challenges, government leaders need to prioritize low taxes and low tariffs while getting rid of harmful regulations. Currently, when compared in relation to income, the OECD econometric estimates reveal that food prices in sub-Saharan Africa are 30 to 40% higher than prices in the rest of the world among countries with comparable levels of GDP per capita. Thankfully, the AfCFTA presents an exciting opportunity to rectify Africa's food problems in 2 ways. First, the AfCFTA will cause African nations to develop stronger trading ties with one another. And second, the AfCFTA will allow countries to specialize in producing products where they have a comparative advantage. Africa lags behind other regions when it comes to intercontinental trade. This means that many African nations don't trade much with one another, and therefore they don't benefit from the cheaper goods that their neighbors are able to produce. However, when the free trade area is fully implemented, trade between African states is expected to increase substantially. The effect of this is that food will be able to flow much more easily from surplus regions, areas that have lots of food production, to deficit regions, where areas are struggling to produce food. The free trade area will also encourage African countries to specialize in producing agricultural goods where they have what is known as a comparative advantage. A comparative advantage is when a country can produce a particular good at a cheaper cost than their neighbors can. Regions thrive economically when every country in that region focuses on producing goods where they have their own comparative advantages and then trading those goods with one another. So let's say that Mali has a comparative advantage in growing wheat, but Ghana has a comparative advantage in growing cocoa. If Ghana and Mali are not trading with one another, they will need to grow both wheat and cocoa within their own borders. However, in this scenario, they will both lose money because Ghana is not as good as Mali at growing wheat, and Mali is not as good as Ghana at growing cocoa. A much better scenario would be to have Ghana focus on growing cocoa, Mali focus on growing wheat, and then they trade with one another. This is what the AfCFTA will help bring about. This type of free trade will cause food prices to fall and allow consumers to have greater access to a wider variety of agricultural products at cheaper prices. The World Bank has estimated that by 2035, the African Continental Free Trade Area alone could add more than $450 billion to the continent's GDP and lift more than 30 million people out of extreme poverty. Free trade is a promising development for Africa, and the quicker countries implement policies that strengthen trading relationships across the region, the better. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to follow the IATP on Twitter at @the_IATP. Also, hit the like and subscribe button below, and check out our website at www.theiatp.org.